Chapter 1176. Plot. In the face of the angel's embrace, Colin Iliad wasn't astonished. He accepted everything with a calm expression, as though he was already prepared. The ritual began. He took a step forward, picked up the Silver Night potion, and poured it into his mouth. Without a sound, this demon hunter's body swelled up, turning into a grayish-blue giant with bluish-black veins covering him. He stood several meters tall, with black cracks on his forehead. Every inch of this giant contained the indescribable power of mystery and terror. Apart from his head, which still retained the appearance of a human, the rest of his body was akin to a mythical creature that exerted a strange mental influence. In the next second, the skull underlying Colin Iliad's head seemed to soften as it sank inwards. With the black crack as its core, his head slowly squirmed, as though it was forming a nebulous vortex. Such pain made the City of Silver's chief, who had killed many powerful creatures, unable to restrain himself. He let out a series of howling cries that could make the minds of ordinary creatures split apart. If it wasn't for the fact that Colin Iliad had already evacuated the members of the Spire in advance, leaving behind only the demigod-level Waite Shermont to watch over him and prevent any accidents from happening, many Beyonders would have definitely lost control. The remains of the 6 powerful living creatures that were situated in different spots floated up under the invisible power of the ritual, circling the mutated Colin Iliad, using some sort of mysterious connection to awaken some of the memories of this peerless demon hunter. It was the experience of hunting demons. It was him painfully ending the former chief's attack with his own hands. It was his life of defeating powerful monsters again and again. These manifestations appeared like painting on an altar. Sometimes they would be integrated into Colin Iliad, and sometimes they would be extracted from him, helping him define himself. He maintained a certain level of clarity during the extreme pain and changes. Only at this moment did Colin Iliad finally understand the essence of the ritual. As a Sequence 4 demon hunter, the hunting of every powerful creature was a battle of intense mental catharsis. It left a deep impression in his life. With these powerful mental imprints, he was able to locate himself after consuming the potion and not be lost in pain and madness. This made Colin Iliad recall a term recorded in some of the books in the City of Silver, anchor. At Sequence 3, he was considered a deity in a certain sense. He could respond to prayers within a certain range, so an anchor was required. As this wasn't the level of an angel, an anchor didn't necessarily need to be a believer. It could be replaced by other things, such as the clear marks in one's life that had meaning in mysticism. In the memories that had been awakened, Colin Iliad slowly regained his self-awareness. He felt his body again and grasped its changes. Right on the heels of that, a layer of wings formed from illusory light extended out from behind him. They fused with the surrounding paintings as they constantly shrank inwards. The surface of Colin Iliad's body collapsed into a silver armor that was firm and beautiful, but it didn't possess any weight to it. After the demon hunter advanced to a Silver Knight, due to the difference in the deity's blessing, there would be minute differences between Silver Knights. Previously, the leader of the King Court's chasers, Light-Color Merskogen, had received blessings from the Giant King. Therefore, the various aspects of the Silver Knight domain were much stronger. On the other hand, Colin Iliad could occasionally make his body condense a silver rapier that could teleport. While in combat, it would appear at random during an attack, with beneficial tendencies bringing about unpredictable changes. In addition, he could also obtain a certain uniqueness when using mercury liquefaction. As the silver armor finally took form, Colin Iliad had completed his advancement. Apart from not having a single vertical eye on his head, he was equivalent to a mythical creature. At this moment, he raised his right hand and waved it to the side. At a small hill outside the City of Silver, a silver beam erupted out of thin air. It tore apart everything around it, splitting the small hill into 2 halves. During Colin Iliad's advancement to Silver Knight, Derek Burr completed the bestowment ritual and obtained a small metal tube. Seizing the opportunity of the City of Silver's chief creating abnormalities, and drawing away most of the attention, Klein suddenly reached out while in the ancient palace above the gray fog. He had summoned a bullet and death knell from the historical void. Right on the heels of that, he did a divination in advance, confirming that there weren't any signs of Amon's parasites around Little Sun. Without any hesitation, he opened the revolver cylinder and stuffed the deceit bullet into it. Pah! With a shake of his right hand, he closed the cylinder and used the mysticism connection to aim at the spot where he had died. Bang! He calmly pulled the trigger and fired the only bullet. At the same time, taking advantage of this beyonder effect, he willed Sapphire Castle's powers into mobilizing. The gray fog boiled once again, including the space around them. A majestic but slightly dark energy surged out like a tidal wave, wrapping around the bullet, passing through the gap, and shooting towards the real world. The light in Sapphire Castle suddenly dimmed. Suppressing his fear and horror, Klein used Death Knell's historical projection to simulate the feeling of a sudden descent. He leaped towards the crimson star representing the sun and leaped towards the tiny tube of his blood. On the barren moors of Chernobyl, all of the Amons wearing pointed hats raised their heads and looked at the lightning that streaked across the sky. They looked at a deep and quiet swath that even the lightning couldn't illuminate. The Amons nudged their monocles, and after a moment of silence, they laughed.
He doesn't seem like someone who can come up with such a solution. Palaz? He joined this organization codenamed the Tarot Club?
In the Berg household in the City of Silver. The darkness in front of Derek suddenly turned dark, as if the candles in the room had been burned to ashes. To the residents of the City of Silver, this wasn't a good thing. Derek's eyes immediately lit up with the light of the sun. At that moment, bits of light burst out from the deep darkness, like transparent, squirming worms. The metal tube that Derek had received shattered automatically as fresh red blood floated out from it and suspended itself in midair. It didn't spread apart, but instead merged with the fragments of light. In just 2 or 3 seconds, these light fragments condensed into one, forming a huge ball of light. The spherical light ball stretched out and changed, quickly forming a figure. The figure had a deep outline and a cold expression. He wore a silk half-top hat and a black coat while holding a black iron-black revolver. It was none other than Gehrman Sparrow. Having successfully deceived the laws of mysticism, Klein used the help of his old blood to complete his resurrection. Without needing any introduction, Derek had already recognized the visitor through his special temperament. After being stunned for a moment, he instinctively revealed an uncontrollable smile.
Mr. World?
Klein raised his head slightly and looked at Little Sun, who seemed to have grown taller. He subconsciously reached out and pressed down on his top hat. He then nodded gently and said,
I will be in the Forsaken Land of the Gods during this period of time. However, I have to leave now. I can't lure Amon into the City of Silver. If there's a chance in the future, I will cooperate with you.
Having understood what Mr. World meant, Derek nodded heavily and said,
All right.
Just as Klein raised his right hand and was about to snap his fingers to leave with flaming jump, Derek looked at him and suddenly pointed to the storage cabinet in the room.
Mr. World, do you need to bring some food with you? There are mushrooms that can produce milk.
Klein controlled himself, not letting the corners of his mouth twitch. He maintained his cold attitude and said,
I don't drink milk.
As soon as he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers, causing a scarlet flame to fly out of his pocket, wrapping around him like water. The fire quickly dissipated like falling stars, and Klein's figure disappeared from Derek Berg's room. Outside the City of Silver, in a deformed forest, flames flashed continuously, extending all the way to the moors leading to the north. After he truly left the City of Silver, Klein slowed down his footsteps and summoned a lantern from the historical void. He had long expected that the revival process would go so smoothly. After all, once he found the correct solution, there was no way that Amon could stop him. In the City of Silver, Amon only had a few avatars at the sequence 4 or 3 level, so Klein could use his true vision to locate them and eliminate them ahead of time. And if they could form an avatar at the Sequence 2 level, Klein, who had gained initial control of Sapphira Castle, could stir powers at the power of an angel, allowing him to easily fight such an avatar while being above the gray fog, and would stay undefeatable since he couldn't be attacked. He had the confidence to defeat his opponent. If Amon moved his true body to the City of Silver, then Klein could choose to revive at his original spot. Of course, Amon could create an avatar that was almost at Sequence 1 and send him to the City of Silver. However, under the premise of the conservation of Beyonder characteristics, how many avatars could he create? Not more than 2. As for Klein, he could split his remaining blood into multiple portions. He could use the bestowment ritual to send them to Mr. Hanged Man, to Ma'am Hermit, and to the Star Leonard. There were too many spots where he could revive, so there was no way that Amon could guard all of them. This was an above-board plan based on his own level, Beyonder powers, and the special ability of Sapphira Castle. Before he attempted to revive himself, Klein was already quite certain of the outcome. The only thing he was worried about was that deceit would be detected by Amon ahead of time, allowing him to interfere in a timely manner, causing his respawn location to change. Fortunately, his divination had confirmed that the level of danger wasn't high. This was one of the reasons why he dared to try. As he advanced amidst the dim yellow light, Klein felt the presence of his body, and he heaved a sigh of relief. He thought,
Phew, I've really escaped from Amon.
Of course, he knew very well that he was going to encounter the relentless pursuit of Amon's main body and various avatars. Chapter 1177, Substitute. On the desolate moors filled with deep ravines, Amon stood in different spots. They opened their mouths and chanted in Jotun.
The blessed of the spirit world and Sapphira Castle, the mystery stemming from ancient times, the witness of an extended history, protector of Backland magic and drama performers, the great Gehrman Sparrow.
These voices were layered as they bored into the void, as though they extended to an infinite distance. 10 seconds later, all of them adjusted their crystal monocles in different manners and chuckled softly.
He changed it really quickly.
If Gehrman Sparrow was still automatically responding to this honorific name, they could then use this opportunity to determine the other party's location and create an error to appear directly beside their target. In the darkness that was illuminated by lightning from time to time, the hatted and coated Klein proceeded north at a moderate pace while holding a lantern.
There's a prayer. Amon is using Gehrman Sparrow's honorific name. This means that a number of Amons aren't too far from me. But the City of Silver doesn't have his parasites. They're in the surrounding patrol teams, or in some unexpected creatures.
As he walked, Klein suddenly turned his head and listened carefully for a few seconds. Regarding this matter, he was rather glad that he was cautious enough. He had changed the honorific name that allowed default acknowledgement while above the gray fog. It went from the Protector of Backland magic and drama performers to Protector of all poor children in Backland. This came from the Loan Charity Bursary Foundation he had set up.
Yes, Amon is a cryptologist. It's very likely that he can interpret this honorific name from all the information regarding Dwayne Dantes. No, I don't even need an automatic response.
As Klein looked at the faint yellow light emitted by the lantern, he quickly made a decision. He made every worm of spirit only capable of listening to prayers, without having the ability to autonomously respond unless they had been given permission from the main body. This way, frequent prayers would severely affect his daily life. But it wasn't a big problem. This was because, other than Amon's vile harassment, no one else would pray to Gehrman Sparrow, since he hadn't spread the word about his honorific name. After settling this matter, Klein thought of all of Amon's terrifying aspects. He suddenly had some doubts about what to do next. His original plan was to stay far away from the City of Silver and head to the Noi ruins in the north to investigate the situation there. He wanted to see if he could obtain the main ingredients needed for the Miracle Invoker potion. However, after connecting that ancient city ruins with Amon, a problem was revealed. Klein could already confirm that the upper levels of neighboring pathways also followed the law of beyonder characteristic convergence. Since Ammon had been wandering around the forsaken land of the gods for more than 1,000 years and had come near the City of Silver, how could he not be attracted to the Noi ruins in the north?
For the chief of the City of Silver to not dare to enter, it means the power in Noi City has definitely reached the level of an angel. Aemon wouldn't ignore it. He probably doesn't dare to directly eat such a high-level beyonder characteristic of a neighboring pathway, but that doesn't prevent him from setting up a trap. Even if he hadn't done so in the past, he would definitely be rushing over there now. Of course, I can't exclude the possibility that Ammon has yet to discover it, because during the City of Silver Chief's first visit, the Noi's ruins weren't as dangerous. Perhaps that power at the angel level came to the Noi's ruins later. He has been constantly migrating his believers to avoid Ammon?
Amidst his thoughts, Klein felt a little afraid about heading northwest for the ancient city. He decided to first see if there were any other ways to obtain the main ingredient of the Miracle Invoker potion before considering if he should head to the periphery of the Noi ruins to observe and gather some intel. With this in mind, he walked towards the wreckage of a tall tower in his black coat and half-top hat, guided by the occasional lightning. Along the way, in the dangerous darkness outside the dim yellow light, monsters lined up and silently followed him. They were already his marionettes. Compared to them, the Saints of the Seer pathway were even more bizarre and terrifying. As they walked, one of the monsters that looked like a fish with limbs suddenly chanted in Jotun,
"The sun that is eternal, you are an inextinguishable light. You are the embodiment of order."
The moment it finished reciting the three-lined honorific name, the monster collapsed to the ground and lost its life. The honorific name of deities often wasn't limited to 3 lines, but when chanting, one could choose any 3. For example, the Eternal Blazing Sun's complete honorific name was Eternal Blazing Sun, Inextinguishable Light, Embodiment of Order, God of Contracts, Guardian of Businesses. And just now, Klein had used the first 3. With this method, he prayed to the Lord of Storms, the God of Knowledge and Wisdom, and the Evernight Goddess, hoping to receive a certain response. However, there was no change in his surroundings 15 minutes later.
It's useless to pray to a sequent 0 true deity in the forsaken land of the gods. Unless the target is the true creator, or is an existence that wields things like Sapphira Castle or the Chaos Sea. That's not right. In Afternoon Town, that clergyman had the goddess's true name concealed when saying it. When he mentioned the 4 King of Angels, he suffered immolation due to the involvement of deities. Perhaps it's because there's still all kinds of divine power in the forsaken land of the gods, not only concealment and degeneration. And the true names of the different deities each have special meaning in mysticism, allowing it to stir the corresponding powers. This way, it would explain why the City of Silver has been teaching the 2 true names of Bad Hyel and Herabergen, but they didn't end up establishing any connection with the god of combat or the god of knowledge and wisdom. The prayers in the forsaken land of the gods are not heard by the true deities, or even if they can hear them, they are unable to respond. This also means that there are no remnant powers of the god of combat or the god of knowledge, otherwise there would have been certain anomalies. Yes, it's also possible that it's not because there are no anomalies, but that the 2 Grade 0 sealed artifacts, God-level sealed artifacts in the City of Silver, have eliminated them. In that case, if I were to directly chant the true name of the goddess, would I cause the surrounding darkness and concealment to stir? If this kind of power can be controlled, I'll have an additional effective trump card when being tracked by Aemon. The probability isn't very high. Directly chanting the true name of a deity is an act of blasphemy, and it will result in the corresponding backlash, just like Afternoon Town's clergyman.
Based on his logic and the phenomenon he had seen, Klein came up with a theory on the present situation. He was eager to try reading out all the true names of the deities he knew, one by one, and checking their effects. Finally, he restrained himself and didn't blindly make the attempts.
I'd better go above the gray fog to do a divination first. Otherwise, who knows if there will be an unbearable accident. Divination involving deities might not give a clear revelation.
After muttering inwardly for a while, Klein scoffed at his impulsiveness.
My previous plan was akin to, I haven't been courting death for 2 days. I shall do it seriously today.
At that moment, he had already arrived at a collapsed tower. He sat beside a wall that had only been cut down by half. He reached out to take out a paper crane from the historical void, and he ignited it. He wanted to see if he could contact the Snake of Fate Will Ausepton series if there was a medium. He wanted to know where he could obtain the main ingredients of the Miracle Invoker potion. Under the illumination of his third summoning of the lantern, Klein fell into a deep sleep, but he didn't dream of anything.
Indeed, it doesn't work.
After he woke up, Klein shook his head and let his body enter a historical void. Following that, he took 4 steps counterclockwise and arrived above the gray fog. Sitting at the seat belonging to the Fool, he beckoned for a small paper box from the junk pile. Inside was a stack of paper cranes. These were personally folded by a certain baby. At the same time, the World Gehrman Sparrow was conjured. He prayed to Mr. Fool in a grayish-white region and requested him to forward his request to Miss Justice, saying that this act could allow her to make contributions to her exchange for the manipulator potion formula. Of course, Klein had already revealed that the potion needed to be consumed while amidst a huge emotional resonance. Backland Empress Borough, inside the Hall family's luxurious mansion. Audrey returned to her bedroom once again and set up a bestowment ritual to obtain the paper crane. She picked up a thin pencil and wrote on the paper crane's surface.
Dwayne Dantes has requested you to meet with me.
After finishing her preparations, Audrey followed Mr. World's instructions and placed the paper crane under her pillow before lying down to sleep. Soon she saw a pitch-black, desolate plain. As a dreamwalker who had given herself hints in advance, she maintained her consciousness and walked towards the black steeple in the middle of the plains with strong curiosity. As soon as she arrived at her destination, Audrey's spiritual perception was triggered. She raised her head and looked at the top of the steeple. At some point in time, there was a giant silver snake coiled there. This gigantic snake didn't have any scales. Its body was covered with symbols and patterns that formed wheels that were connected to each other, with different labels. At that moment, the gigantic snake was staring at Audrey with its bright red and cold eyes. It said in a low voice,
"What does Dwayne Dantes want?"
This is the angel of the fate pathway that gave Ma'am Hermit a drop of blood.
Audrey controlled her thoughts and calmly looked at the gigantic snake. She said in honesty,
He wanted me to ask you where he can obtain the main ingredient of the Miracle Invoker potion.
The gigantic silver snake suddenly fell silent for a few seconds before saying,
The number of sequence 2s in different pathways differ in numbers. Under the situation of the quota of attendant of mysteries being filled, there can only be a total of 6 miracle invokers.
A Miracle Invoker is the name of a sequence 2 potion. Mr. World is going to become an angel? Or is he making preparations for his partner? No, if it's a companion, he can get them to ask him themselves.
Audrey was first alarmed before she began to look forward to the mysterious serpent's answer. Chapter 1178. I Have a Blessed. The gigantic silver snake looked down at Audrey and opened its blood-red mouth.
The Sequence 1 potion that Zaratul, the leader of the Secret Order, consumed came from an attendant of mysteries. In other words, he possesses an extra Miracle Invoker characteristic. Similarly, it was the same for the ancestor of the Antigonus family back then. Of course, if they were interested in something, or if they had a candidate who had won the favor of the family to the point of them being willing to nurture them, then an angel with sufficiently high status can separate the extra Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic to the other party. The third Miracle Invoker's Beyonder characteristic had combined with a characteristic of mysterious origins. It has become Sealed Artifact 005, also known as the Magic Wishing Lamp. A true deity once attempted to destroy this item, to separate the characteristics and allow them to converge automatically, but eventually failed. The fourth and fifth Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristics are in the form of a Grade 0 sealed artifact that exists in the Churches of the Eternal Blazing Sun and Lord of Storms. One of them is named 013. It comes from the Third Epoch's creator, designated as the Last Banquet. The other is codenamed 032, a product of the War of the Four Emperors, designated as theater with curtains that never draw. The sixth miracle invoker beyonder characteristic might be in the Forsaken Land of the Gods. During the Third Epoch, there was a remnant dark demonic wolf who occasionally appeared. After the cataclysm, he vanished without a trace.
Audrey listened attentively and thought carefully for a moment before saying,
You're saying that, under the situation where the attendant of mystery spots are filled, there are only 6 miracle invokers. And now, you only mention the Secret Order's leader, Zaratul, and the ancestor of the Antigonus family, but the spots don't seem to be filled. In such a situation, there might be an extra miracle invoker beyonder characteristic.
This wasn't information that the World Gairman Sparrow had informed her of in advance. Instead, it was a question that Audrey had come up with on her own accord from the details of the answer and her knowledge of mysticism. The eyes of the giant silver snake moved slightly.
Indeed, there should be 3 attendants of mysteries. But in this second epoch, in the era when the ancient god, Phlegrea, still lived, the third set of the attendant of mysteries beyonder characteristic seemed to have disappeared without a trace. No one knows where it is. Likewise, for the corresponding miracle invoker beyonder characteristic, perhaps it has already combined together and has found a sufficiently concealed method to hide itself.
Audrey nodded gently and said,
I understand. I'll pass on the information to Mr. Dwayne Dantes. Oh, he even asked me to ask you if there's anything you need his help with?
The giant silver snake slithered up and a third of its body stood up.
No. A small matter. Yes, I have a blessed, who is an outstanding gourmet. He has a desire to taste ice cream from the various noble families, so as to determine the most delicious one.
This request, Mr. Snake, maybe it's Ma'am Snake, is really nice to her. Blessed. His tone is as if he can't wait. This is too simple. I can agree to help on Mr. World's behalf and complete it on my own. I'll just treat it as accumulating the sufficient contributions needed to exchange the potion formula.
Audrey said thoughtfully.
No problem. But how do I send him the ice cream?
The giant silver snake slowly coiled and said,
Sacrifice it to him. He's already a Sequence 3 saint and can accept sacrifices in the same city. His honorific name is the embodiment of luck, the clairvoyant monster, the calamity that spreads misfortune, the witnesses of all fates in Backland, the keeper of chaos and madness.
There's a difference between this honorific name and a normal Sequence 3's. There's no name at the end.
Audrey's eyes darted around slightly, but she didn't say anything further and nodded in agreement.
Keeper of Chaos and Madness. Will's last honorific name is quite interesting. This shouldn't be the honorific name of the Snake of Fate, but something that he used when he was at Sequence 3. Some tweaks were made later on. The monster pathways watches over chaos and madness. Or could it be said that in this world, even for Fate, those at the lower sequences are in chaos and madness? Monsters are working hard to resist all of this, making everything seem normal.
After Klein heard Miss Justice's answer, he didn't find it odd for Will Ossepton to request for ice cream. Instead, he found the honorific name of the Life School of Thought president rather interesting.
Having a blessed. That's like saying I know someone. Did Will learn this from me? No, I have a real blessed Danitz. Later on, I'll have this fellow sacrifice something for me to eat. I can't really eat those mutated monsters or summon projections from the historical void, right? Yes, if I have a chance, I'll invite little son to try them together. I can't let him be obsessed with Frank's mushrooms. The number of blessed serving Will definitely won't be less than mine. There might even be more. He has the huge life school of thought.
Klein conjured the World Gairman Sparrow and made him reply to Miss Justice, indicating that the ice cream contributed plenty. After completing all of this, he wrapped the edge of the long, mottled table and seriously considered the problem with the main ingredient of the miracle invoker.
There's no need to think about the miracle invoker beyond her characteristic with Zaratul. It's impossible for him to separate it to give it to me. He only wants to turn me into his marionette. It's not like there's zero hope with Antigonus's 2 portions, but if that's the case, I'll have to request it from the goddess again. I can't offer something equivalent, I'm afraid. Besides, the goddess might not be able to provide it. The reason why she wants to seal the half-fool who has lost control is probably because she is unable to kill him. Once he is killed, he will be able to escape his current predicament and revive elsewhere, just like how I escaped from On. Under such a situation, the goddess has no way of getting Antigonus to separate a miracle invoker beyond her characteristic. Even a true deity can't shatter 005, so there's no point targeting it. It's useless even if I have it. This sealed artifact's origins are truly mysterious. There's something very fishy about it. The Church of the Eternal Blazing Suns 013 is called the Last Banquet. It comes from the City of Silver's creator. Why does this person always like to use the names that have dangerous implications? The Church of the Lord of Storms is 032 is theater with curtains that never draw. Just the sound of it allows me to imagine what it's like. The chances of obtaining these 2 Grade 0 sealed artifacts are very low, but it's not impossible. It just depends on whether the Eternal Blazing Sun and Lord of Storms are willing to support my growth so as to contain Amon. Yes, up to now, they have yet to show any kindness. I can't find a suitable way to interact with the right person. I can't possibly use divination to spy on the Eternal Blazing Sun again and communicate with him through space, right? If that happens, wouldn't it be better if he directly invades Sapphira Castle and takes control of this place? If I were to nurture Mr. Hanged Man and wait till he has the qualifications to come into contact with a Grade 0 sealed artifact, I'll most likely have become Amon. The true creator knows a clue to the 3rd characteristic of the Attendant of Mysteries. His divine kingdom and holy residence are in the forsaken land of the gods. These 2 might be related somehow. The 2 sets of miracle invoker characteristics and an Attendant of Mysteries characteristics are highly likely to be in the forsaken land of the gods. I wonder which one is in the Noi ruins. Yes, the true creator should only know a clue, and not its exact location. Otherwise, he would have obtained that Attendant of Mysteries beyond her characteristic before the War of the 4 Emperors, and effectively increased his subordinates' strength. In other words, the Attendant of Mysteries beyond her characteristic is something even a true deity can't obtain quickly, and it's necessary to search for it. It might not be so easy for Amon to come across it, allowing him to set up a trap. If the danger within the ruins were only recently found, having just been transplanted, it would match this trait. From the looks of it, I still have to make a trip. However, I have to be careful enough. The danger comes from Amon and also from the ruins. I'll do a divination first, then I'll observe and gather intelligence from a distance. I won't enter blindly and will be patient enough.
Klein conjured a pen and paper and was about to write the corresponding divination statement when he suddenly thought of something and decided to make another confirmation. He drew a complicated symbol that was a mixture of concealment and mystery prying. He threw it into the crimson star, representing the magician. With Gehrman Sparrow's image and tone, he asked her to question our roads. Backland, Eastborough. Fours, who was about to move houses, drew the curtains and lit a candle. She set up a mirror and found CO to act as a bystander. She then drew the symbol that Mr. World had given her. In the room, the environment gradually turned dark as cold winds stirred, causing the two to tremble. The surface of the mirror suddenly rippled, forming ancient dark red Fasak text.
You have summoned the great Aerodes. You have to abide by the corresponding rules. You have to answer a question for every question asked. If you lie or refuse to answer, you will be punished.
Fours, who had been warned, calmly replied,
All right.
Following that, she asked curiously,
Where can one obtain the main ingredient of the Miracle Invoker potion?
On the surface of the mirror, dark red words appeared one after another as other lines vanished. They answered the question in detail.
It's basically the same as Will's answer.
Above the gray fog, through the crimson star representing Miss Magician, Klein watched the specific process and nodded in disappointment. After Fours memorized the answer, she said nervously,
It's your turn to ask.
The dark red words changed and formed a new sentence.
Have you had an erotic dream in the past year?
Phew, thankfully it's still okay.
Forrest heaved a sigh of relief and said,
Yes.
This was human nature. She didn't feel that there was anything to be ashamed of. Following that, she raised the second question.
Do you have any suggestions on the matter regarding obtaining the main ingredient of the miracle invoker?
Rhodes dispersed the dark red text and used silver colors to form new words.
The Abraham family still holds the Apprentice Pathway's Sequence 2 Planeswalker Potion formula, as well as the corresponding powerful sealed artifacts, a total of 2 of them. The Aurora Order also has one.
This.
Klein's eyes lit up as he thought of a new possibility.
Is that so?
Forrest frowned slightly and said,
It's your turn to ask a question.
The silver color on the surface of the mirror faded away as dark red colors formed a sentence.
Other than you, who else was the star of your erotic dream?
Forrest gaped as her face flushed red. Chapter 1179. Preparations Both Ways. At that moment, Forrest felt her cheeks burning as she stiffened. She didn't even dare to turn her head to look at her friend. She realized that she had severely underestimated the bottom line of the magic mirror. After stuttering for a moment, Forrest recalled Mr. World's reminder and closed her eyes.
I choose to accept the punishment.
A silvery white bolt of lightning fell from the air in the room, but the moment it appeared, the lightning vanished without a trace, like it was a hallucination. The dark red words on the surface of the mirror were dyed silver, as they were quickly replaced with new content.
The question and answer game will end here today. Goodbye?
Without waiting for Forrest to open her eyes, and before Gio could react, the rippling light in the mirror instantly calmed down. The gloom and darkness in the room shattered as they were swallowed by the light of the candle. Wasn't there supposed to be a punishment? Forrest waited for a few seconds before opening her eyes slightly. She looked at the mirror that had returned to normal, and then at Shatters, who was watching by the sidelines. Shio pointed at the top of her head and said,
There was lightning that smote at you, but it disappeared halfway. Also, the magic mirror had already left.
Forrest rubbed her right cheek as she made a guess.
The magic mirror was only joking? That's not right. The warning I received was that the questions would be rather embarrassing, and the punishments would be rather heavy. Could it be that Mr. Fool protected me?
Shio nodded in agreement with her friend.
Perhaps.
Just as Forrest heaved a sigh of relief and rejoiced, she suddenly realized that Shio was looking at her earnestly. Forrest's heart skipped a beat.
What's the matter?
Shio asked thoughtfully.
In that erotic dream of yours, who was the main lead?
Forrest forced a smile.
Haha, who would remember such a dream from so long ago? Besides, aren't dreams blurry and unclear?
Shio tersely acknowledged.
If that's the case, why didn't you answer with that just now?
Forrest glanced at the luggage that she had finished packing and said,
I was nervous. I was too nervous. It's time for us to move. I miss having a fireplace.
As she spoke, she walked towards her luggage. It was only at this moment that she realized that, at times, the outcome was similar whether she answered the magic mirror's question or not. Forrest continuously took deep breaths in an attempt to calm her burning face and embarrassed heart.
Is this the social death that was mentioned by German Sparrow? I really want to bury my head into the ground.
In the ancient palace above the fog, Klein threw the sea god's scepter back into the junk pile and scoffed at Rhodes' act.
Despite knowing that I was the one who sent someone to summon it, it actually dared to raise such a question. Only when I stopped the punishment did it hurriedly change its attitude and leave in a panic. It sure had fun. However, its answer has given me a new train of thought. I really don't need to restrict myself to the path of a miracle invoker. The second blasphemy slate is most likely from the City of Silver's creator, and is now in the hands of Adam. Although Aman and his brother are mutually staying away from each other's affairs and aren't on especially good terms, they have worked together before. I don't believe that he has never seen that blasphemy slate. If that's the case, he is definitely aware of the Miracle Invoker's ritual and can guess that I'll be bringing the City of Silver out of the forsaken land of the gods. When that happens, he wouldn't even need to put much effort into tracking me. He just needs to wait at the Giant King's court. Yes, I can't go according to the enemy's expectations, especially since this is a god of deceit and a god of mischief. Countless accidents will happen. If it's because of my participation that the City of Silver's thousands of years of hope ends up being destroyed, then it'll be completely contradictory to my original intentions. The problem with a planeswalker is that I might hear Mr. Door's ravings and will suffer the scrutiny and corruption from the cosmos that's worse than Sequence 2 angels from other pathways. Of course, this isn't completely unacceptable. Also, will I need to pay back the 2 resurrection chances that Sapphire Castle gave me? That's still fine, since I'll definitely transfer back to being an attendant of mysteries at Sequence 1, because Mr. Door has already blocked off the advancement path of the apprentice pathway. He is at least in control of the uniqueness and 2 sets of Sequence 1 beyonder characteristics, perhaps even all 3. It's not necessary for me to switch to Planeswalker, but I have to make the necessary preparations. When my options increase, even if Aemon tries to stop me, the difficulty of burying a trap in advance will increase significantly. Only then can I become an angel while under the pressure of a king of angels. Yes, I'll stay on the fence for now. I'll prepare for the Miracle Invoker advancement while preparing for the Planeswalker advancement. I'll determine which pathway to take based on the actual situation when the time comes.
Having come to a decision, Klein felt refreshed. His mind was abnormally active, and he quickly came up with a preliminary plan.
I'm not in a hurry to ask Miss Magician's teacher about the Planeswalker potion formula and the corresponding Grade 0 sealed artifact. This will scare the Abraham family, making them suspect that Miss Magician worships some evil god and has joined some terrible organization. With their current situation, there's a high chance that they won't reply. They will change their identities, move, and sever all ties. Yes, the head of the Saint of Secrets, Bodis, will make a fine gift. Regardless of whether the Abraham family gives the Worm of Cosmos, this matter will have to be placed on the agenda. I hope Miss Justice can digest the Dreamwalker potion as soon as possible. I hope that Ma'am Hermit will be prepared. I also hope that the 2 ladies, Miss Magician and Miss Judgment, will be able to improve before the operation. Right, according to what Miss Magician said, Saint of Secrets Bodis is a defector of the Abraham family, and the Aurora Order holds a Grade 0 sealed artifact of the Apprentice Pathway. That's interesting. Perhaps I don't need to contact the Abraham family. I might be able to get what I want from the Saint of Secrets. I have to remind Ma'am Hermit that Bodis might be carrying a Grade 0 sealed artifact, so confirmation has to be made before the operation. If that Grade 0 sealed artifact isn't in the hands of the Saint of Secrets, then I'll probably have to face the Angel of Fate Ouroboros to get it. No, Grade 0 sealed artifacts are terrifying to begin with. It's one of the sources of danger. Phew, I'll first wait for Miss Magician's teacher to reply and see if the Abraham family is averse to any mention of the Worm of Cosmos.
As he thought of this, Klein suddenly felt a hint of self-deprecation. He felt that he and the Aurora Order appeared to be destined enemies. They often had all kinds of interactions. When the operation begins, the Aurora Order will definitely shout in their hearts,
Why is it you again? Why is it us again?
After letting out a breath, he gathered his thoughts and conjured the World Gearman Sparrow. He replied to Miss Magician, who had reported the answer. Following that, the world prayed once again, requesting Mr. Fool to forward his request to Danitz. On a certain island in the Fog Sea, Danitz, who was waiting for the Golden Dream, turned his head to look at Anderson and chuckled.
I'm going to summon Gearman Sparrow's messenger.
Anderson pricked up his brows and scoffed.
You're qualified to consume the Conspirer potion.
Danitz felt even more pleased with himself as he said humbly,
You were the one who made it too obvious. Even I could sense that you were afraid of that messenger.
Anderson suddenly guffawed.
Why do you not suspect that I'm pretending to be afraid? I'm just trying to find a reasonable excuse to avoid hearing things I shouldn't be hearing.
Danitz was almost convinced.
Dogsh asterisk T. Do you think I'll believe the lies you came up with in a hurry?
Anderson spread his hands and walked to the door.
You've gathered all the materials of the Conspirer Potion. Remember to remind Gehrman to not forget my Iron-Blooded Knight Potion formula.
Danitz waved his hand impatiently, indicating that he hadn't forgotten. After Anderson walked out of the room and closed the door, Danitz immediately set up a ritual and summoned the messenger holding 4 blonde, red-eyed heads. Seeing the 8 eyes look over at the same time, Danitz's chest immediately retracted. He forced a smile and handed out a gold coin.
Ma'am, Gehrman Sparrow wants me to tell you that he's fine. He's now in the forsaken land of the gods.
As a crew member of Vice Admiral Iceberg, Danitz's knowledge of mysticism was still adequate. After a momentary pause, his pupils clearly dilated.
Wait, what did I say? The forsaken land of the gods?
Renette Tinneker bit down on the gold coin and answered immediately.
All right.
Then she entered the void and vanished from the room. After reporting this to Gehrman Sparrow, Danitz received the Iron-Blooded Knight's potion formula and new orders. Danitz muttered to himself, but he didn't dare to raise any questions.
Prepare some local delicacies and sacrifice them to sea god Calvetua. Isn't this mission a little odd?
He quickly tidied up the altar, found a parchment, and wrote down the supplementary ingredients and corresponding ritual in the Iron-Blooded Knight potion formula. Following that, he opened the door and handed the parchment to Anderson.
Form a team of at least 30 people. The stronger the team's strength and chemistry, the better the ritual's effects.
Anderson unfolded the parchment in front of Danitz and read it. As he read, his brows gradually furrowed.
If the team's chemistry is to build upon the idea of killing me, the captain, the ritual is rather simple.
Without waiting for Danitz to mock him, a burning white flame appeared from his fingertip and burned the parchment. Anderson chuckled.
I need to go back to my homeland to find an opportunity. That place is currently being invaded by Phaenopotter, and war is always the best place for building up and training a team.
With a pause, he looked at Danitz and said with a smile,
I've prepared some questions for you. They're in my room. Once you become a conspirer, you can try doing it and see if your intelligence has improved.
Danitz was almost moved, but he immediately understood that something was wrong.
Dogsh asterisk T. Are you trying to trick me into reading all the books in your room?
No matter how high his intelligence was, he wouldn't be able to solve the questions if he hadn't read the textbooks. Anderson praised with a smile as he turned around and left the inn.
Not bad. It only took you 3 seconds this time to grasp the crux of the matter. If it were in the past, you would have really believed me.
Chapter 1180, Different Effects. In the forsaken land of the gods, at night when the frequency of lightning had dropped to a very low frequency, 2 slices of white bread and a piece of barbecued meat is pretty good after all. The sweet and sour desserts from the Fog Sea are better than I had expected. After swallowing the last mouthful of food, Klein sighed in amazement from the bottom of his heart. He then threw the remaining packaging into the darkness. After all, there was no concept of environmental protection here, nor was there a rubbish bin. Of course, he had removed his connection with those items ahead of time, just like how he would head over to Sapphira Castle to perform sterilization every time he abandoned a marionette. This was to prevent Eamon's avatars from locking onto him with them.
Lifeless objects won't be transferred into a concealed state by the darkness here.
Klein raised the lantern that Danitz had sacrificed, and he illuminated the abandoned items. It was only after he filled his stomach that he was in the mood to try out the dangerous things he had previously divined. Amidst the flickering dim yellow light, Klein reached his right hand out into the air and dragged out another projection of himself. It was another version of him from the historical void, one who was also holding onto a lantern. Klein entered the grayish-white fog 1 second later, allowing his projection's consciousness to awaken. The projection was surrounded by a group of monsters. Amidst the endless darkness, it opened its mouth, planning to recite the name Amanises. He didn't manage to make a single sound, as though the words he wanted to say had been concealed.
Indeed, it's as I expected.
Wearing a silk half-top hat and a black trench coat, Klein slowly took a deep breath. Looking at the lantern that emitted faint yellow light, he suddenly chanted in Jotun.
Leodero.
Before he could finish his sentence, more than 100 lightning bolts warped as if they were responding to being summoned. They instantly blanketed the area. There was no time for him to dodge. Even if he had switched places with a marionette, he would still be within the attack range. Amidst the brightening of silvery white light, he collapsed to the ground. His body was charred as he convulsed violently, as though he had become a gigantic piece of coal. Then, his figure rapidly dissipated as the illusion vanished. Wearing a real top hat, clothed in an Intis-styled windbreaker, and carrying a simple lantern, Klein immediately returned to reality and continued proceeding forward as if nothing had happened. After walking for a while, his figure suddenly turned blurry and clear. Following that, Klein opened his mouth again and read out a name in Jotun.
Ow.
Just as he produced the first syllable, a transparent flame burst out from his body, instantly reducing him to ashes, not giving him a chance to switch places with his marionette. Klein's figure appeared once again. He pressed his hat and walked calmly on the hill filled with strange plants.
Herabergen. Bad heel. Omebella. There's nothing out of the ordinary. There are no traces of the corresponding divine powers left in the vicinity of the City of Silver. Medici, Ouroboros, Sasrir. These are of no use, neither one of them are deities. I thought that the situation at Afternoon Town and the Giant King's court was due to special circumstances. Using Sasrir's true name outside can activate the powers of degeneration from the forsaken land of the gods. As a king of angels with the uniqueness, Red Angel is also considered half a true god. Yet there aren't any traces left of him. How shameful for a person, no, shameful for a king of angels.
As Klein walked down the hill, he followed his spiritual intuition and headed northwest where the city ruins of Noi were. He would occasionally take a detour, occasionally using Flaming Jump, and he didn't follow the route that the City of Silver had used to explore to reach their destination. Backland, late at night, feeling that she had digested the potion a little more, Audrey very eagerly used dream traversal to leave her mansion and to enter the various dreams of the surrounding area. Knowing what the current situation was like, she had a strong desire to become a demigod. Just like that, she suddenly saw someone familiar. This was a noble lady who had a good relationship with her. She was 29 years old and had married a viscount 2 years ago. At this moment, the lady's room was filled with rose petals. The bed was white, and there was a heart-shaped ring placed on it, and she could hear knocking sounds from the outside. With flushed cheeks, the lady quickly walked over and opened the window. A man wearing a black iron mask and a dark cloak leaped in. He hugged the lady and whispered,
"I'll take you away from your suffering."
Then, the two of them started to wrap their bodies around one another as they rolled into bed. As a dreamwalker who was working hard to digest the potion, Audrey had long seen similar scenes. She had experienced the phase of feeling embarrassed, and she sighed at how everyone's dreams were full of imagination. At that moment, she didn't lose her composure at all. She maintained the etiquette of a spectator, as though she was witnessing an overly intense play. After a brief examination, she discovered a problem. The man wearing the black iron mask wasn't the wife's spouse, but more like a particular playboy in the aristocratic circles.
Is this a reflection of what's hidden in her heart?
Audrey muttered to herself in an academic manner while analyzing the dream. Following that, she traversed into the dream beside her out of curiosity. This dream corresponded to the noble wife's husband, the Viscount. In the dream, this Viscount was busy attending a discussion at the House of Lords. Later, he was chased by an earl with a revolver. The latter claimed that he had tricked his daughter. After escaping to a safe zone, the Viscount found his female secretary to vent his fear. Audrey couldn't help but leave the dream, wanting to see the state the Viscount and his wife were in. In the bedroom under the illumination of the crimson moonlight, the Viscount was hugging his wife on the huge white bed. His wife was hugging him and sleeping in a very intimate manner.
Yes, I have to realize that everyone has a dark side to them. It's just a dream that they've had. If conviction for a mere instantaneous thought was carried out, then everyone would descend into hell. and no one will be spared, including myself. I can control my dark side, preventing it from ever being realized in the real world. To most people, that's already considered excellent.
Audrey increasingly felt that acting as a dreamwalker was a way to question and hone one's mind and body. She entered the dreamscape again and traversed to another area. Not long after, she arrived at a warm room. There was a dining table placed over a thick carpet. At the seat of honor was a white-haired old lady. To her sides were a middle-aged couple and 3 children who were not of age. They were all enjoying the delicious food, chatting, and laughing. It was dark outside the room. The strong winds made the glass groan and thump as they seemed to brew a horrifying sensation before the disaster struck.
What is the owner of this dream bothered about?
Audrey retreated from the dream and tried to find an answer from the real world to verify her hypothesis. She then saw a small bed and the white-haired old lady. There were photo frames on the bedside table of the old lady. They were either wrapped in black cloth or white flowers, consisting of a middle-aged couple and 3 underage children. Audrey silently turned her head to look out the window, only to see that there were ruins nearby, ones left behind by an explosion. The young noble lady pursed her lips and suddenly returned to the old lady's dreams. She didn't stop the disaster that might happen. She only conjured a chair and sat on it. She looked at the happy and warm family in a solemn manner. Amidst the howling wind and glass, the room was brightly lit. There was the fragrance of food and laughter everywhere. Audrey had already concluded one of the acting principles of Dreamwalker.
A traveler of a dream enters, takes in the sights and records, never interfering. That was a spectator.
In St. Samuel Cathedral, having been summoned by Bishop Anthony Stephen, Leonard slowly walked up the spiral staircase under the sunlight that shone in through the stained glass. Suddenly, he said with a suppressed voice,
Old man, that secret gathering is about to begin again. Are you really planning to attempt to enter the treasures left behind by the Jacob family at the end of the month?
I'm not sure yet, but this is an opportunity. At the very least, Amon's main body is being tied down by the matter regarding Sapphire Castle. He won't suddenly appear.
In Leonard's mind, Pelez Zoroast replied with a slightly hoarse voice,
However, I'm more inclined to reveal the news of the treasure trove. I want the people at the gathering to adventure and explore it. We'll stay in the vicinity and observe the situation, taking what I need from their hands.
Leonard was taken aback as he whispered,
Old man, isn't that too sinister?
This was using the members of the Hermits of Fate as tools to step into a trap.
Naive, childish. You can tell them all the details and let them decide whether they want to go on their own.
Pelez scoffed. Leonard didn't mention it again. Instead, he asked,
Old man, when can I become a demigod?
Pelez chuckled.
If you can obtain a spirit at the level of your former colleague's messenger, you'll be able to digest the potion by the beginning of next year. However, it's better to act according to my instructions. Engage in a deeper level of acting. Wait till the second half of next year. You'll have the qualifications to try for Sequence 4. Of course, I'm not sure if the Church of Evernight will give you the potion and hold a ritual for you. That high-ranking deacon named Chesimir Crestet had to wait several years before he truly became a demigod when war truly broke out, didn't he?
Leonard nodded and asked thoughtfully,
Old man, can you act as a spirit to help me digest the potion? Your level should be higher than Klein's messenger.
Pelez Zoroast fell silent for a few seconds before he chortled,
What a great idea! How about I help you digest the potion?
Leonard knew that old man was mocking him, but he couldn't help but ask,
How?
I'll deeply parasitize you, gaining full control over your body.
Pelez snapped back. As he spoke, Leonard came to the door of the Backlund Diocese's archbishop. He immediately shut his mouth and raised his right hand to knock on the door. Anthony Stephen glanced at Leonard, who had opened the door, and said,
Come in, you can release that vampire behind Chanis Gate.